You are listening to the Overthinker's Guide to Joy, episode 118. This is the episode where I'm going to talk about my secret hack for losing weight, feeling better, and pressing the reset button all in one. Let's dive in. This is a podcast for overthinkers, overdoers, and overachievers who are tired of feeling overanxious and just want to feel better. I'm your host, certified life coach, Jackie DeCrenis. Hey there, and welcome back. Today we're going to be diving into one of my favorite resets for mind and body. Now, over the holidays, I must admit, I allowed myself to indulge in quite a few sweets. People kept bringing over homemade sourdough breads and cookies, and there was a lot of C's candy and dark chocolate, which is my favorite. And there were a few glasses of champagne, and then January came. And I thought, okay, well, I'm definitely going to give up alcohol because I don't really need it. And my new puppy came at the very end of January, which brought me tons of joy, but has also had a lot of stress and responsibility because there's things like housebreaking and crate training and basic training and pretty much just all the other things that come along with a new puppy. So at the end of my long workday and training my new pup, I found myself going off my regular eating habits and indulging in way more comfort food, even some cocktails, definitely a few more sweets at the end of the evening, or at least a few more sweets for what I'm used to. Now, that's all fine and good, and everyone needs to do what's right for their body at the right time. But for me, this incremental increase in sugars and alcohol and comfort foods like bread or pasta, that just resulted in me feeling more sluggish, bloated, and quite frankly, it increases my joint pain due to inflammation. And this is bound to happen. It doesn't happen because of a bite of food or a particularly heavy carb meal or even a week of celebrating a birthday. It happens incrementally because sort of one day leads to 1 week leads to a month, and then before you know, it's kind of a new habit again. So when this happens, I like to hit the reset button. And I use my go-to cleanse to get back on track. So let me be clear. I don't believe in fasting, counting calories, fad diets, skipping meals, or juice cleanses. I believe in eating the way you can for most of your life. And again, that doesn't mean skipping birthday cakes on your birthday or not having a glass of champagne at a wedding or things like that. I'm not talking about deprivation. And I'm not talking about perfection. I'm just saying holistically, there's a certain way I like to eat to optimize my energy, my health, and just the way I feel and think. And if I go too far off the wagon, I feel it in my body. But I also feel it in my mental clarity. So this is a practice that I have been doing on and off for probably 15 years. And it's informed mostly how I eat on a regular basis. So let me rewind and tell you how I first came to learn about this anti-inflammatory diet. Many years ago, I developed a condition called frozen shoulder. Now, if you haven't experienced or heard of frozen shoulder, it's a condition that can affect men or women, but it's often related to a sports injury, but not always. But more often than not, it tends to plague more women than men. And it unfortunately is fairly common amongst women between the ages of about 45 to 55, which they think might be directly related to changes in hormones. But I didn't know all of this way back when. Mine came on slowly as a shoulder injury due to tennis, but then rapidly turned into 2 years of limited mobility, sleepless nights, chronic pain, and having to give up my favorite sport, which is tennis, for several years. But at that time, I was determined to conquer my condition. So I went to orthopedic specialists, acupuncturists, chiropractors, massage therapists, physical therapists, but really nobody was helping. And during my healing journey, I saw this one holistic doctor who put me on an elimination diet to reduce inflammation because he believed that might be the component to my shoulder problem. Well, the truth is, the diet didn't fix my shoulder at all. But it did do something unexpected. Everything else in my body improved. My skin looked better. My energy skyrocketed. I was happier, and I even lost 15 pounds. So I was so thrilled with how I felt that I adhered to this program for over a year. And then slowly I became less restrictive as time went on. But generally, this is kind of the lifestyle or life plan that I adopted in terms of my nutritional guidelines. So whenever I feel like my energy levels are starting to dip again or my joints are starting to ache, I kind of do it as a reset again. It has become the number one program I recommend to my clients who want to lose weight or simply want to feel better. And I have had dozens of people lose 10 to 40 pounds on this program. And they tell me when they changed their eating habits and lost the weight, everything else in their lives changed too. It's pretty simple, and it's the elimination of 4 things: no white flour, no white sugar, no alcohol, no dairy. Now, most people usually find one thing on the list that's easy to eliminate. And then 2 things they'll say, oh, that might be a challenge. And then there's always one of the 4 they say, well, that's not possible. But here's the thing: nothing's impossible. And it also doesn't have to be forever. When I started this, I did it just as an experiment to reset my body and to see how it felt without these foods. Because I knew from the research I had done and from what this doctor had told me, these are the 4 culprits of inflammation and what Chinese medicine calls liver congestion. These are also the foods that cause the most cravings for most people, along with anything highly processed like candy, chips, crackers, soda, fast food, etc. But here's the great news. Once you eliminate them for a week or so, you lose your cravings for them. So the first week is actually the hardest, and then it gets a lot easier. Now, as I said, I don't eat this way all the time. And when I start letting these foods creep back into my diet, certainly at a high level, I certainly feel it. My joints swell, the scale goes up, and I don't feel like my best self. Now, if you're experiencing anything in these categories, brain fog, joint swelling, the scale is too high, fatigue, crankiness, bloated, you may want to try this because it's kind of magical. Now, let me explain why this happens and how you can do it too. First, let's talk about the science. Why do these 4 things, sugar, alcohol, white flour, and dairy, affect so many people? Well, first, let's talk about sugar and white flour. These refined carbs cause spikes in our blood sugar, leading to energy crashes and increased cravings, and something you might not have known, which is water retention. Carbs, especially refined ones, make your body hold on to water, which is why you often feel puffy or bloated after a heavy carb meal. So this is particularly an issue for women who tend to retain more water for many reasons related to hormones, although this can certainly impact men too. Now let's talk about alcohol. Besides dehydrating you, alcohol can inflame your gut, mess with your sleep, and disrupt your hormone balance. Not to mention, it's often loaded with hidden sugars. Wine, champagne, and especially cocktails are loaded with sugar and carbs. Now let's talk about dairy. I know that dairy is the easiest way to consume protein. Cheese, milk, yogurt, even sweets like ice cream or frozen yogurt are also readily available and delicious. And for some people, the digestion of dairy is not an issue. But for many people, lactose intolerant or not, dairy products can cause inflammation, bloating, congestion, and even skin breakouts due to lactose or casein proteins. And in some cases, dairy can create more histamines in the body. The allergic reactions, which might manifest as runny nose, more mucus, or even exacerbate asthma or autoimmune conditions. Now, I know what you're thinking. If I eliminate these 4 food groups, what can I eat? It seems like there's nothing left. Well, during this elimination reset, the focus should be on lean proteins and vegetables with a limited amount of fresh fruit, because fruit has a lot of natural sugar, which is definitely better than white sugar, and it certainly has fiber, but it still should be eaten in moderation. And again, we're not talking about cutting out all of these things forever. We just want to investigate how they impact your body. Okay, so you're thinking, all right, Jackie, what do I do with all this information? Well, here's your homework. It's not to try the elimination diet. In fact, I don't want you to cut out anything just yet. Instead, if you're interested in feeling less sluggish, losing weight, clearing up your skin, better digestion, better sleep, all the things, all I want you to do is track what you eat and drink for 1 week. Whether you use a food journal, a notebook, your phone, an Excel spreadsheet, an app, it doesn't matter. Just write it down. Now, every time I work with a client who wants to change their eating habits or lose weight or just feel better, we always start with awareness. I want you to notice what you're eating, when you're eating it, and most importantly, how it makes you feel. Are you bloated? Are you tired? Are you energized? Are you moody? Are you craving something? What food causes you to eat more, crave more? And then why do you eat? Is it stress? Is it boredom? Is it habit? Is it loneliness? Or is it genuinely hunger? So just start paying attention to these things and writing them down. Everything. Track your water intake too. If you haven't listened to this podcast since the beginning, hydration is the focus of my very first episode, and it is the key element to your daily well-being. But here's the thing when you start tracking. You have to let go of judgment. Be honest with what you're putting in your mouth, whether it's one M&M or a pack of sugarless gum or a bottle of wine. It all gets written down. This is about collecting data on your body, your weight, your aches and pains, your bloating, your fatigue, etc. And after a week of tracking, if you're inclined to try this challenge, then you can start preparing your kitchen and cupboards for it. Because the key is preparation. Eliminating the junk food. Of course, if you have kids, that's always a little bit of a challenge. You keep it separate. And then buying what you need to set yourself up for success. So I recommend doing this challenge for 28 days to get the full effect. But that can be very daunting for many people who have never done something like this before. So start with 7 days. 7 days of tracking, of course. And then 7 days of no white flour, no sugar, no alcohol, no dairy. But here's some other tips for success. Don't skip meals. In theory, you shouldn't be, quote, snacking. So you might need to eat 4 meals a day instead of 3. Every meal should have at least 15 to 20 grams of protein. Plan ahead. Always have healthy proteins and veggie choices ready to eat, or healthy places that you like to eat or take out from. Drink plenty of water, at least 64 ounces a day. Now, if you want to add some carbs to the program and not just do veggies, fruit, and protein, include small amounts of either plain rice or red or sweet potatoes are fine too, as long as they're not fried. But the important thing is to read labels. You want to avoid processed foods and fried foods. And no artificial sweeteners are to be used as sugar substitutes. And that's a whole other podcast. So that's your challenge. 1 week of tracking, no changes, just awareness. Then if you're ready to take on the 7-day challenge or the full 28-day challenge, I would be happy to support you. You can reach out to me on my website to schedule a call or send me a note and just tell me how you're doing. I'll be happy to be your accountability partner. And as for me, I'm 9 days into my reset and my results are pretty good. My digestion and sleep are already better. I've lost a couple of pounds too, and my inflammation is way down in my joints. This is the number one reason I love this program. All right, friends, if you found this episode helpful, please leave me a review or share it with a friend who might need a little reset in their life too. And as always, I thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye for now. If you would like to learn more about working with me as a coach, you can connect with me through my website at jackiedegrenis.com. That's JACKIEDECRINIS.com.